Live from the heart of gold, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Hello, welcome to Derailed Trains of Thought, episode 39. We're almost over the hill.
We are getting over the hill. Hey, I just had a birthday, so don't be talking about that yet.
I'm going to have a birthday, and I'm older than you are. So, hello, we're back with your premier storytelling podcast, or podcast about storytelling. Technically, we don't actually tell stories on here very often.
No, not as often as we probably should.
Well, it would be a good idea occasionally.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
So
where are we? What is this place then?
Well, all I see right now is we got like a million monkeys typing out Hamlet on typewriters.
That seems very unlikely.
It does seem very unlikely, but it's more likely than you would think here on the Heart of Gold.
On the Heart of Gold, it's a very it's very strange me asking what the description of this ship is because I'm standing in it, obviously.
Well, it keeps changing as we're watching.
So is the whole thing made of gold?
No, well, it might be for a second or two, but just when it goes online.
It doesn't look like gold right now.
No, I mean when they engage in probability drive, anything can happen.
Okay, that's why it keeps changing from like pink to fuchsia to green to polka dot plaid and
polka dot. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean that's the best of the changes. So, I mean the one time my arms were molasses, that was kind of interesting, but like literally, not like figuratively.
Okay, well we better get through this before we get turned into some.
Yeah, luckily we're in real space right now, just kind of chilling. So, I have my towel, so we're set.
And you know, I think we just heard the project update jingle. I forgot about that again.
Oh, Tim, it's not your fault; it's the drive's fault.
And that's true; it is the drive's fault. Anyway, let's go into story school.
Okay.
Darn that improbability drive.
So, real quick, before I forget, I wanted to also mention that we are also derailed trains of scheduling. Because we said, I think we've promised once or twice or numerous times to try to be every other or once a month on Thursday.
Yes. Here it is Monday again.
Unless you're actually with us on this ship, it's probably not
Thursday.
It is occasionally here, but...
Yeah, well, if you're listening live, it is. We may have this out by Thursday,
yeah,
so
that's
then
true.
They would be listening on Thursday.
Ah, see, that's how we'll get around it.
Yeah.
All right, so our topic today...
Yeah, you better set this up, because this is your idea.
Yeah, this was my idea, and it's kind of confusing to start with.
I claim no responsibility.
So if you hate it...
it's Nick's fault.
It's my fault, yes. So, anyways, I guess I'll title it Drama Logic versus just normal logic.
Okay.
Like, story logic versus normal logic.
I kind of feel like this is going to be like a blended mix of some of our previous topics.
Well, I'm trying to keep it separate. And I guess here's my thought. We wanted to distinguish this from like, Okay, let me just give you an example. That's going to be the best way. And these are on a continuum. I had it all in my head before we started podcasting. So, for instance, I was watching the show Revolution, which I don't know if anyone else watches but I still watch it. And they have the American patriots are kind of the bad guys, and they're in Texas right now. And our main characters are trying to get away from the patriots and foil the patriots and all this other stuff. And it turns out 2 or 3 times the last couple episodes, someone close to them is suddenly like secretly a patriot with like no warning whatsoever. And it makes great, like, oh, that's interesting, twist. People love twists on TV now.
Out of curiosity, because I haven't watched the show in quite a while, were these characters that had been on the show since the beginning?
No.
Did they
in this case, later? No. One of them had been on, both of them been on since the beginning of the season.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's not like a full 360. It's not like, say, you have main characters, you've been running on 3 seasons, and suddenly they're Cylons for no good reason. But...
which has happened.
And I guess here's my thing. Within story context, twists are great, surprises are great, even stretching of logic for the sake of not being realistic, which we've talked about previously. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I think, and I could be wrong, more and more drama logic, story logic trumps normal logic. That as long as it makes good conflict, you don't have to worry about the details. And I think there are dangers going too far with that idea. Granted, I understand, you make a half-hour show, you want everything to be as dramatic as possible, you're compressing it. I guess I wanted to talk about, the dangers or of everyone's watched a show or read a book when you're just like, what? Not like a good what? Not like a,
when there's a bad twist.
When there's a bad twist, or even like you didn't see there was no setup, and I think that's what it comes down to sometimes. The Cylon one, I'll just so you know, if you watch Battlestar Galactica, I like to pick on. I mean, it is a very good show, and I like to pick on it.
As much as we tried to defend Lost on this episode, on this podcast, Nick probably tries to nitpick Battlestar Galactica just about as much.
I guess honestly, here's the reason it comes up so often, because I don't watch a lot of TV shows, so I don't have
not as much to say your brother.
Not as much to say my brother. That's true, and also it was one of the shows I watched all the way through, and was a really good show, and annoyed me because there were these things I felt like, why did you do that? Because normally if a show does that, I don't watch it.
Right. You had been going with it long enough that
there was a lot of good stuff about it. So
yeah.
But there's like 12 Cylon types models, and for like I think it's end of season 3, they'd still not found. We'd seen like 7 of them. And suddenly, 4, I don't remember, 4 or 5 of our main characters and a couple minor characters ended up being Cylons. They just discovered it themselves. They didn't know it. I think why the show can pull it off and why it's not like one of those things everyone just throws down and say this is dumb is because the show was always examining sort of what it means to be human and this sort of, are we all... I mean, I think the sense that no one could even have possibly have guessed it was part of the reason people accept it, because that's kind of the sort of thing they were examining,
because people are unpredictable,
or just. But on another end, you could say, but shouldn't there have been some hint, But so it ends up being the Cylons are basically human, except they're robots, and then they have all these fights about them being robots instead of Cylons, and it's like you're the same thing, really. I mean, that's what it came off to me.
Yeah.
And so I guess it comes off to how far what is the say a storyteller as opposed to a viewer, how far can you get away with throwing things in there that are like, you throw them because, that sounds like a good idea at the time. And it happens probably more on TV because they run it faster. I mean, a novel, you don't do it as often.
Or continuing stories.
Yeah, you like, you have to keep it exciting. Soap operas do it, oh, what? You have an evil twin? I mean, that idea.
Yeah.
That once you get past the initial shock of, that's ridiculous, then it makes good story.
Yeah.
But is it worth doing those initial shocks? Pulling the person out of the claw,
It
like
is.
even our, we always like Bible on 5 and J. Michael Straczynski. I always thought it was particularly strange. Everyone wants you to do something kind of like this. Mm-hmm. Lockley, having been married to Sheridan, I always thought like, what? We've seen Sheridan for like 4 seasons. He's always talking about, I guess there's no reason he would have mentioned it, but it still seems a little like you just wrote that in there. Zach and I, when we were talking about the Revolution thing, we were like, we feel like they wrote that in right then because it sounded good. It doesn't feel like it was set up.
Well, I kind of feel like, and this may just be me defending J. Michael a lot, but I kind of feel like anytime that happened on Babylon 5, it was usually something that happened outside of his control that happened. Like, because with Lockley, you could say he hadn't really even a plan to need Lockley originally. She was written in because Ivanova wasn't in the last season.
No, and I get that, and that's the thing. This is what I guess I brought this subject up because I'm kind of torn about it because it makes sense you can defend any of these things.
Oh yeah. Well, like we were just talking before we started recording about the recent twist that was introduced in Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Which, if you're not watching and you don't want to spoiler, this is a big one. But so we were talking early, like last episode, about Peter Pan, and then they just revealed that Peter Pan was actually Rumpelstiltskin's father that had been like converted to be a kid again.
Yeah.
And it was okay. So on one hand, it totally makes sense in the sense that Rumpel was basically following the pattern of his father's mistakes, sins of your father and all that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, it just makes the overcomplicated family tree of Once Upon a Time all that more ridiculous and soap opera-y, honestly.
It does everything have to be connected back. Now, the thing with that one, and this is on the continuum, that I would argue it feels less egregious of a connection because you could tell that there are clues that they had meant to do it all along.
Yeah, they really were. I mean, like, as ridiculous as it was, on the other hand, it also made complete sense.
Yes.
Which is kind of the conundrum about the whole thing.
And that's the thing. You're right. With Babylon 5 and Lockley, she comes in 5th season because one of the other main characters leaves. And J. Michael always had trapdoors. And bringing her in made good sense. And I get you want drama there. I don't know why you had to do that particular...
Why'd you have that kind of connection?
That particular connection.
It does seem like you have the potential to be especially contrived in a sense if there has to be a previous connection to, especially a family one.
Especially the biggest one of the Revolution. There was a friend who portrayed her, and it was like you just did that so you have something to do this episode, and okay. And then the next, honestly, the next episode, or maybe 2 episodes later, one of the main characters' dad's working for the Patriots, which then the episode after they do a flashback, and it makes perfect sense, but the flashback happens after the fact. Before here's what I feel like, and when I brought this up to Tim's like, a lot of people are going to think Lost was just made up, and which okay, but here's my thing. Lost answers questions, or not, that you were asking. That they had purposely brought up. They didn't answer all of them, or people wouldn't be so mad. But they would give a flashback that was surprising, but you had expected, okay, how did Ben become this way? There must have been something interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking, what's up with her dad? There was no...
There
was no hints of, something's weird going on. 2 little scenes previously, in some other episodes, and I would have bought it.
Right. Just a little bit of foreshadowing.
Just a little, yeah, because I'll buy it, because I know you don't want to give it away, but as long as I'm asking the question.
Well, and I guess the sense of continuity is important there too, the foreshadowing, because you don't always want foreshadowing to feel like, hey, this is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important that the story feels like it's continuing. You're creating a fictional time line, basically. Yeah. And if something that happens that fits in, that is similar, or that relates to something that was previously established in your timeline, then it feels real. It feels continuous.
And I think my problem here was just it felt continuous once we saw the flashback. We saw the flashback after the twist, and you felt like
you're patching things up.
And maybe they weren't. Maybe they'd always planned it, but it felt like they were patching things up. And you don't. I think maybe that's the real problem with it, that because here's the thing, the Chekhov's gun.
Okay.
You put the gun on the wall and you go, get shot off by Act 3 or whatever.
Right.
This is a delicate balance in stories. I think that stories, people expect everything in a story to have a use, but they don't want to know and easily connect the use too early or too late or too much.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good point.
That sort of thing with Rumpelstiltskin's dad. The connections are almost too much now.
Yeah, right.
Or Thor: The Dark World.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me much, but it stood out very strongly that they had the whole thing. They're on this planet. They had fought off the bad guy, and Loki had perished or not. And they walk into a cave, and immediately phone rings, and they're exactly in the one spot in the entire universe where this riff in space exists. And they set up the riff in space previously. That's good. Right. And they've set up this boy who would call her previously, which is good.
Yeah.
But of all the of all the gin joints in all the world,
yeah.
That's where the convenience of moving the story along felt very thin.
Right. And I could certainly see that. I don't know that I thought of it when I saw it in a theater.
I don't normally think like that, but for some reason, I did, and my mind was just thinking like that.
I guess for me, the reason why I didn't think, I guess I didn't think about it necessarily at that point. Well, maybe I did a little. I forget now. But because it did sort of establish that it's all around Britain. Although I guess I don't know how you rationalize it that they happen to I guess my thinking was that all these rifts probably congregate around the same place or similar area.
No, I mean, that makes sense. It's one of those things that, again, like 2 lines might have fixed.
Right.
Just like, this is this is where the battle for, we had met for the battle the first 1,000 years ago. And so.
Well, and honestly, everyone knows that all connections to, other planets, outside worlds go through Britain anyway. Doctor Who is pretty well established.
Well,
that.
and the Britain half doesn't bother me. It's the alien half that bothers me.
Yeah.
Because we knew they were all in Britain. I was fine with that. You tell me, here's the thing, the story, you tell me, Rift will open up wherever you walk, I'll buy it because it's Thor.
Well, what I mean is, they were probably pretty close to that. Wherever they went to the Dark World from Asgard, wherever that rift was, might have been also close to the rift that led to Britain.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
So I mean, yeah.
Okay, but and I love the end of them riffing and going in and out the halls.
The portals.
Remarkably convenient use of the portal. I mean, everyone comes up right where they need to, and they don't. Airplanes don't get lost on other planets for thousands of years or anything like that. Which
none of them show up in the middle of the sky or something.
And that's where you're getting nitpicky. I mean, that's you're playing story logic, but again, Continuum. Some people probably watch that who are very logical minded, and I don't think that's fair for a movie like Thor.
No.
But that one scene was just like, it rubbed a little thin. I think that's, what, too little butter on too much bread. You don't want that as much as possible.
Right.
And it's hard, especially in a movie where you want everything to have a purpose and you want things to move as quick as possible. You don't want to see people traveling or trying desperately to get home if that's not the point of your movie.
Right. So in terms of using dramatic conventions, you're not just talking about setting up a twist here. You're also talking about...
The twists are the most obvious ones where I've seen it lately, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, anything where you're personally shortcutting logic, because it's what happens in stories.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, like we said in the previous podcast, we're not trying to be realistic in a non-realistic story.
And you can't worry, sometimes you can't worry too much about cliches and originality because, that's worrying about that stuff just gets in the way of the story you're trying to tell.
It was interesting. Wheel of Time, just to bring that up randomly.
The series that you keep talking about.
I know,
no
I
one
do.
has read.
I know because like my TV series. There's some things I've fully invested in, and those I talk most about, and other ones I don't know. And 14 books give me a lot to talk about.
That's true. That's true.
But there's a thing called Taverin. I won't say all the names right, but your 3 main characters, they warp the pattern of the world around themselves, which is an excuse for coincidences to happen around them.
Ooh, interesting.
So it helps you expect it, and it's cool when it happens, and it helps the author, get people into places that they wouldn't necessarily logically be able to get to. Things happen like an improbability drive.
Yeah.
I
was just thinking very similar.
Exactly.
It's like a built-in one.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly limits. He doesn't abuse it that I noticed when I read through it the first time, but set up things like that. People buy it. You're just lucky or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I have a point with all this. I just think.
Well, it is a very fine line. And,
it is, and I think, and as writers, I think there was a scene in I was thinking about this. Our friend Greg, who lives in podcast, I was reading a script for his master's.
Yes, right? MFA.
Yeah. So, anyways, there was one scene that I thought, look, this could possibly stretch the lines of probability a little bit. If you could just 2 lines would fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a writer, you know where you go and you know where you want to get to, and you don't want to deal with all the in betweens, and you find ways to get around it. And it makes sense to your head, but you have the whole world in your head.
Yeah.
And you're moving the world around.
Well, and a lot of times,
and having outside, an honest, slightly skeptical person saying, "Really?"
Yeah. When I read Greg's script, I had a couple little things like that too. I mean, it was a great script.
Oh no, it was a fabulous. And I'm not saying anything. I really enjoyed it. And
but
there's stuff you can do in my stories that you're like, Natasha would be like, "How would this work?"
Oh yeah, she has a lot of those notes because Natasha's our main editor for Children of the Wells.
My wife is very logical. Her mind's very logical, and she'll make the connections when she needs to on that sort of stuff.
And she's very good about that sort of thing. And speaking of Children of the Wells, hopefully, like, if you've been reading it, here's a little plug-in to kind of,
childrenofthewells.com.
So if you haven't, go ahead and start. But, we've got kind of a big change in the works for the world of Children of the Wells. And I'm not going to say when it's going to happen, but if if you read certain sections, we knew it was going to be a big shift that we needed to have some foreshadowing.
And we've been trying to, set that up.
Yeah,
well,
except without necessarily,
telegraphing
that we're setting it up.
Yeah, you want things. The best is when you can look back and be like, oh.
Yeah.
Actually, when I wrote Select's Bodyguard, I remember thinking at the end that I wasn't sure people were going to buy it. When Bronn, there was those steps to take him down into the well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I felt like it was a very thin line between just being coincidental to help me get him down, which it kind of was from writing point of view, and not. And how I worked it out in my head, and I think it worked, but no one complained yet, is that there's some talk about, faith and you're meant to be, this sort of like miracle sort of talk going on. Uh-huh. And it's almost a setup for the last scene from Clea's point of view. And I figure there is things in the world that would make sense. Clea talks about, stuff.
But Clea always has a scientific explanation for everything.
But anyways, I felt that scene was getting dangerously close to being convenient.
Too convenient.
Yeah. And it may have been. And I think that's why, as writers, the middle of any story is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And that's what you like. I have this cool scene here that starts the drama. Like this cool scene where I want it to end, and I gotta get through this, and I don't want to lose tension.
Mm-hmm.
So we find ways to compress it, and sometimes compressions are show the workings of the story too much.
Yeah. Well, like I remember you said in one of our discussions, sometimes people don't want to be able to see you pulling the strings.
Yeah.
They want to feel like it's all organic.
Yeah. Now, I mean, granted, when you're studying as an English major, you'll see the strings being pulled, but you shouldn't be able to see it otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's always tricky for the people who have had that education to then not go ruin it for everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. And you can ruin it. You can still play the English professor sometime too, but
yeah.
So yeah, I guess it was more of I wanted to kind of talk it out, and I think really foreshadowing is always the best, even a little bit, just or making sure that people are asking the questions,
right?
That you're even if they don't know they're asking it consciously, that there's a space set up for them for this thing to fit in,
right? And like in Children of the Wells, I mean, like I said, we didn't want to telegraph that we were foreshadowing. But now, actually, I think this week, aren't we in like chapter 3?
Yeah, that isn't getting much more
where someone actually starts
talking about
something.
Yeah.
So, again, read Children of the Wells.
It's actually really good stuff. Yeah, and you can download them if you don't like to read them on the web. So,
yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have audio versions of them.
No, we should some one day.
Maybe. If we have some voiceover people
that'd be awesome.
that listen to us.
Yeah. Or we just need one narrator. Yeah. For each one. Well, we need a guy and a girl probably because we have different points of view.
Yeah, that's true. Especially with Select's Bodyguard.
Yeah, especially. So, and some of the other ones would be helpful. Would help. It would be nice if my new one, Will's Orphan, was not
read by a guy.
What they once said.
No, that's
this
true.
First person from Clea's point of view. And that was another one where there's another scene where it's like, is this too convenient? Because it is a struggle. I mean, I don't want to blame writers for making it convenient because you want to just hit the high points.
Well, it is kind of funny that there is sort of a tendency to think these times that if some things are going too well for your heroes, then something's wrong.
Yeah,
like something terrible is about to happen. And I was struggling with that. I guess I'll go ahead and make an announcement here. I am actually working on a book for Children of the Wells, and I was working on an outline recently, and it's overall a pretty It's a more upbeat book than some of the others in the series. Yes. But then I started wondering, well, is that bad? Am I making things too easy for them? And I don't think it will be, but I mean, it'll be a lighter romp, I think.
Yeah, and it's always, the style you've set up, yes, and I won't add to that. But I know there's these two characters meet in my novel, and it's kind of coincidental that they meet. Mm-hmm. And I kind of have them talk about that because there is sort of this underlying theme again with Clea of this, she's like, what's my purpose? And there's the other people trying to talk about God and all this other stuff. So I try to play it into that. And he says, the guy he's like, I go here all the time. You're the one out of place, and you know how she got there. So, we'll see if it works. We'll see what my wife says. So,
see what your editor has to say.
See what my editor has to say exactly. So,
well, I don't know if we came to a resolution
No.
there. Aside from foreshadowing is usually better than
yes,
not.
it is usually better than not.
Yeah.
Or at least just being aware where the places are thin and seeing if there's ways you can, being aware that this is convenient for, maybe not that it could be, maybe it's not easy, but just like.
The more you can put yourself in your audience's shoes, the better.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to big reveals.
Because they want to be able to trust. Well, and the other thing is I feel like I don't want entertainment to destroy people's logic. I don't want entertainment where people turn off their logic brain and they just go with the flow. Yeah, I feel like while there are conventions in stories and plays and whatever, there should be still, you shouldn't have to turn off your brain to make it work.
Yeah.
So.
Fair enough.
All right, there we go. Oh yeah, I'm doing the first soundtrack.
Yes,
right?
you are.
All right. So I really had no idea what to do for soundtrack tonight. So there's no foreshadowing.
But there is a theme.
There is a theme.
A theme song. For soundtrack.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Here we go.
Soundtrack. All right, Tim, thank you for keeping me honest. I'm completely off my rocker now. So, but I thought, since I was saying that, making sure they're asking the question beforehand, the song of my remix is called Lake in Ontario. Is a question. I don't know why it's a question. We don't know what lake in Ontario they're referring to. But oh god,
there's not much foreshadowing to this, honestly. That's a very loose excuse.
I'm trying the best I have. Okay. So, anyways, it's called Lake in Ontario, and it's a remix from Final Fantasy X, remixed by Ilpo, or it might be a 0 at the end. It might be ILP 0. I'm not really sure at all. But I hope you enjoy. All right, it is time now for the part you've all been waiting for. I'm killing time as Tim gets the right sound going. What if? So, we haven't done What If for a while. This is the part of the show where we just make up something ridiculous and brainstorm what it would be like in real life. Not quite like the Skeksis thing, but that actually existed in real life.
That's true. Which, that was a Crackpot's Corner, we decided.
Yeah.
Because it was not exactly ours.
Like, one What If was, our favorite What If of all time was if Michael Bay directed Wizard of Oz.
That was terrifying, but
Yes.
it was very...
Do you know what episode that is, if they want to go back and listen to that?
It's the action-related one.
The action
it's like
movie one?
Capers, Pythons, and something.
Okay.
Oh, my.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we thought, for some reason, we get to my little pet peeves on this show a lot. I don't know why. I don't even have that many. But in honor of The Hobbit coming out soon, or Hobbit Part 2.
The movie inspired by The
The
Hobbit.
movie inspired by The Hobbit. Also including most other things in Middle-earth besides The Hobbit. And even more than the Appendix have. We thought we'd try to pick some other good classic books and see how many movies we would get out of those as well.
So
we were having a little trouble figuring it out.
we were trying to figure this out during the soundtrack, actually. So this will be a very alive episode of Derailed Trains of Live as we kind of figure this out.
So, but you suggested Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
See, Tom Sawyer, say it's a trilogy, because it has to be at least a trilogy to make money.
Certainly. And then after you follow that with, the sequel trilogy of Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah.
Which, actually, Huckleberry Finn, well, it'd still be a stretch, but... Because, Huckleberry Finn has, like, multiple stories in it.
Yeah,
anyway. I guess either one of them kind of do.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can make... I mean, obviously, a whole movie would be just about Tom and Becky in the caves.
Oh, yeah, that would be the last one.
Yeah, that'd be the finale.
Like the 3 hours of them in the caves.
The long chase where their conflict with Injun Joe finally comes into to a head.
And somehow there'd be dynamite in the cave, I think.
Yeah. and like every other, like probably by the time that you get to the third movie, you would know every person who lived in Tom Sawyer's hometown.
Well,
and each would have their own dramatic arc they go through as they were searching for Tom and Becky in the cave.
I think the second movie though would have to. There'd be like a half hour where Tom Sawyer was dead. And then like the entire like last 15 minutes is him like rising from the dead in that funeral scene and all this, so it's a very, and then like as it's fading out, there's Injun Joe,
He's not dead either.
Yeah.
Or like his like, you just see his foot stomp on the ground or something.
So
like that.
because to hang a whole movie on lots of stories, you'd have to connect them, So obviously Becky would have to be a love interest.
Oh yeah, well she always sort of is.
Yeah, but I mean you have to really play it.
Oh right.
And probably have some other girls that he.
And keeping with movie traditions, probably Tom and Becky would really be played by actors who were like 19, 20.
Yeah. I almost certainly. And probably be, and his who does he live with? His aunt?
Aunt Polly, I believe.
Yeah, she would have to be played by
probably Meryl Streep or Sally Field maybe.
Or who played the McGonagall in the Harry Potter movies?
I have no idea.
Okay, I like her. She's also in Downton Abbey. What is her name?
Oh, that old British lady that's in everything?
Yeah. She'd be British. Why not? It's a great American novel.
No, wait, you're not talking about Harriet Jones, Prime Minister.
No, not her. The other one.
Oh, okay, the other old lady, British lady who's in everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Besides Judi Dench.
Yeah, let's get her. Okay.
Judi Dench in small town Mississippi. I totally want to see that now, actually.
But like the first movie, like there would have to be the 2 hour long. It would have to be focused around painting the picket fence. I mean, that would be the central conflict. So
wow, I'm not sure how you stretch that one out.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, he doesn't just want to. It's like,
maybe it's like a whole.
It's like Forrest Gump when he's getting a box of chocolate thing. So like, between him doing each post, there's like an entire story that runs away and then gets dragged back to it.
Okay.
So it's called Tom Sawyer, White Picket Fence, episode 1.
I kind of imagine Tom Sawyer is eventually going to like organize all the children to this town in like this massive battle against the adults.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end, the adults will all be like, oh, you're right. These kids were totally, they knew what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah, you knew at least one massive battle every movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, first one between the kids and the adults.
And Tom Sawyer would have to have massive character growth, over the time.
Mm-hmm. He'd go from like being just this little lazy punk to
like a rich, well-informed lazy punk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with with Becky hanging off his arm and all that.
Yeah. Okay. I think
so. That's the Tom Sawyer trilogy. What about the Huck Finn trilogy?
Huck Finn trilogy. Well, I think you spend the whole first movie with him and his dad, and it's this deep drama there.
Ooh, okay.
And then the end is when he gets away on the raft with.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like town intrigue and maybe a murder mystery. Maybe his dad killed someone.
Okay. Yeah. And then I can see kind of the second movie being sort of Huck wanders into this town that's become controlled by this religious zealot. Mm-hmm. And, and so once again, Huckleberry Finn is being oppressed by the man. This time the man is religion.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
So you have to overthrow that.
And then the third part obviously would be back with Tom Sawyer, who's the rich, filthy rich, well-informed, lazy punk.
Yeah.
And he's being pushed down by his own kind.
Yeah. Well,
and then he rises up and he steals all Tom Sawyer's people, so he can combine them all into a 6 movie.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
A 6 movie epic.
Epic.
Yeah, obviously.
I almost want to see this.
Well, the thing is, though, the end of it'll be tricky though, because like the end of the Huckleberry Finn, the whole saga thing. Not only are they like rising up against all these people, they're also like freeing the slaves.
Yeah.
So,
well, maybe Tom Sawyer wants to keep the slave down.
Yeah, he's become like a white capitalist.
Yeah,
with all his money.
There we go. And there's nothing like some sort of race fight to really get a award to finish off this 6 movie.
Exactly.
Epic.
Boy, our politics are sort of creeping in here, aren't they?
Okay, let's try one more famous book.
Did you know that Tom Sawyer? This is I don't know. Well, maybe I don't know the story well enough to say what the movie would be like. But did you know that Mark Twain actually did write some sequels to?
There's he's a spy or something.
There's one where he's a detective. There's one that's it takes on this H.G. Wells sort of thing where they're in like an airplane or something that flies to Europe.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't know that.
I found it in the library once. It sounds like something that Hollywood would come up with, but no, Mark Twain came up with it.
Interesting.
So I guess
Well, then you could have a 9 movie. I mean, why not?
Why not?
Just milk it. Just go. Tom Sawyer 27. It's like James Bond.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. I mean, milking your characters goes a long way back.
Oh yeah, no, certainly does.
Yeah, I mean.
I don't think
Sherlock Holmes.
I don't think there's any popular story that has not been because people they like to see their favorite characters over and over again.
Oh, sure.
And they want them doing different stuff, but not too different.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Not too different. Okay, so what's another classic book that we can do?
Classic book. I'm trying to not pick some random Dostoevsky or something. Those could be 3 movies. So
yeah. Well, honestly, Lord of the Rings could have been 6 movies.
No, it legitimately should have been 6 movies.
Like you could have done one for each book in each book.
Yeah, and then
2
the Hobbit could have been 1.
Yeah,
and we would have ended up with the same number instead of wanting to make 6 Lord of the Rings and then just putting the Hobbit name on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not really that bitter, everyone, but because
it's just...
Here's the thing, I'm very fond of the Hobbit because I identify with Bilbo Baggins. I love the sort of the clumsy goes into it character, and I grew up on the Hobbit cartoon, which I still think is the most. I mean, it misses stuff, but it's very faithful to the book, honestly.
And certainly, yeah, in terms of tone.
In tone, yeah, and tone especially. And I think the tone bothers me more than the stuff that gets missed.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that Peter Jackson wants to film the appendices to Lord of the Rings,
but then they should be something different. I mean, what? People wouldn't care. You could have said Lord of the Rings, the Fall of Gondor.
Yeah.
And and no one but geeks would understand it, but they'd be like, Lord of the Rings, let's go.
Yeah.
Or Lord of the Rings, Legolas lives. I don't know. I mean, and I wouldn't even have felt bad about it because
because I mean, it would have been a separate thing. I mean, I don't begrudge like all the Lord of the Rings video games that are out there. But if you're gonna make a movie The Hobbit and say this is in the same plateau as the previous Lord of the Rings movies, it's not.
And I think the tone is what bothers me more than anything. Like the best parts of the first one were when it was like the bag end was awesome.
Yeah.
And some of the other pieces that felt very Hobbit. Bilbo Baggins-ish. I know people were telling me back, Tolkien was trying to rewrite it to be more like Lord of the Rings. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I'll go look it up. And apparently he did, except he stopped because everyone told him it didn't sound like The Hobbit anymore. And I'm like, yes.
He understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
sorry, digress. Amazing on Derailed Trains of Thought.
Funnily enough, I'm not sure we actually go as derailed as we often say we do.
No, we'd like to play it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know Great Gatsby enough. I would like to make that into 3 movies.
Yeah, well, I don't know it at all, really. I was trying to think of one that we would both
Or Hound of the Baskervilles. Do you know that one? Talk about Sherlock Holmes.
A little bit.
Or
what about Hamlet?
I thought of Hamlet. Yeah, Hamlet is 3.
We could 3. Okay, so how many acts is it?
It's 5 acts.
Okay, so 5 movies.
But yeah, there we go. And the thing with Hamlet is while nothing happens in Hamlet, because he can't ever make a decision, you would have to make a lot happen with nothing happening to make the movies work.
What if I'm kind of picturing Hamlet going through, all his ruminations, all his indecisions, while on in a war zone.
Well, because there's warriors coming, so we need to have what you need is all the characters, Laertes and Ophelia and his dad before he died. I mean, here's the thing: you're going to need massive amounts of flashbacks every time he's ruminating and doing stuff. Just 30 minutes of flashback about his dad and his mom and the wars they fought and all this stuff. When he picks up York's skull, you need a 20-minute flashback of him and York when he was a kid.
Right. I mean, basically, it's sort of like you wouldn't even really have to change the story much. You're just adding things.
You're just adding math. Yeah.
It's like,
you need to have some very steamy scenes between him and Ophelia before she goes to nunnery and stuff like that.
True. But I mean, it's like what your sister was saying the other day about Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yeah,
you use the original text. You just add, like there, and then there was an explosion, and then,
and then at the end, and for last movie when basically everyone dies in Hamlet.
Oh yeah.
But they do it in like this. It's a stage. It's this like duel. It's kind
poison. It's kind of lame.
So what you do, you have to do it. You do the same sort of poison and duels, but you have it on the battlefield. So you have like thousands of people, and you have that scene about an hour in where both armies are running at each other screaming. There's that music and they hit each other and clash, and then there's all this fighting with characters that were made up for the movie, and they die or live or both,
right? And
then finally Hamlet gets and meets Ford and Brass or whoever it is, and they fight, and then
I think that's gonna be happening.
And you can have poison going on and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, sure.
Wait, and you should probably you probably need some people from like when they have the play in Act 3 or 4, I think it's 3. You need to have the play within play can be an entire
separate movie.
Oh yeah,
it could be a movie of its own. It could be a spinoff.
It could be a TV series.
Oh, there you go.
It could be about the actors go and do these plays, and it'd be like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's like the players of Hamlet.
The play's a thing.
The play's the thing.
That's probably
that's a tagline. It's like and they're doing here's the thing. No. Skip that. Do the Hamlet movies, but then you have the plays. The players of Hamlet or the players of Denmark, I guess.
Yeah.
Something's rotten in Denmark.
I was waiting for that.
No. And then, but here's the thing: they do plays, but they're actually secret agents doing undercover. They're stealing intel during it. So it's like the play's the thing. So it's the cover, and that'd be a great TV show.
I would watch that.
And Hamlet could come on every once in a while and just kind of talk and not do anything, and then he could leave. It'd be awesome.
Complain about how they messed up his
and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern stage. Could be like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern could be the Coulson of that show.
Yes.
Okay, so you do the movies and I'll do the TV show. We'll be rich.
We'll be set.
We'll be set. All right.
You're on a roll tonight.
I am on a roll tonight. Well, I know Hamlet pretty well, so that helps.
I know Hamlet, but I mean, probably not that well.
My English teacher, we spent like a month and a half on it, and it sank in pretty good.
Okay, well, that's
and then
good.
watched Tenet like a year ago, which helped.
Yeah,
that Tenet is actually a remarkably good play.
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to, on a unrelated note, I'd like to watch King Lear sometime, because I didn't study that one, but I had read it for a class, and we just talked about it for like a day. Mm-hmm. That one's pretty interesting too, with him yelling at the storm and the gesture and everything.
I need to catch up on some shit. Well, funny.
I haven't read anything since college. I would like to go back and read some of them.
Yeah,
I'd probably like them better now.
In high school, I did, because everyone's supposed to read like 2 in high school. I wound up reading 2 that I don't think nearly as many people read. I did Julius Caesar and The Taming of the Shrew.
I've seen Taming of the Shrew several times. I have never read any of the histories.
Oh yeah. Julius Caesar is I can't say it was the first one I read, so I can't say it stuck with me as much as Taming of the Shrew, because we did a whole class on Taming of the Shrew. Julius Caesar I just read. Yeah. But no, I mean there's certainly, you always remember Et Brute and all that good stuff. Yeah,
more Shakespeare would be a good thing to read. But I read some of the comedies and some of the most of the big dramas. I've never read what's the one that's on the island?
A Midsummer's Night's Dream?
No, that's a comedy.
Oh, okay.
I don't think this one. Anyways, I forget now. I'll kick myself later.
The other one that everybody has read is Macbeth, and I don't think I've read.
Yeah, I read Macbeth. I thought that was good. But yeah, Hamlet and King Lear are my favorites currently. So.
Okay.
All right. So.
Well, I think that's probably good enough.
Yeah. So you can do it with anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, one that they have turned into a 2-movie thing, Treasure Island.
A 2-movie thing?
Well, I saw it on Netflix once. I actually only watched the one part of it, but they did the one part was just getting to the island, and the second part was all the island stuff.
And here's the thing: we're a little more forgiving of making TV miniseries.
Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice is 6 hours or 5.5 hours or whatever.
Right.
And that makes sense, because then
or Anne of Green Gables.
Yeah, Anne of Green Gables. That makes sense to me. And I think I would have been fine with making The Hobbit two movies. 3 seems an awful lot.
3 is
2 when they said 2 originally. I'm like, okay, that way you can get everything in. Mm-hmm. But they get more than everything in, and they have to make major people complain that Tolkien doesn't do much character development, but that's that story. Yeah. It's an adventure story. You don't have to make it what it is and not what it isn't.
Yeah, it's a different tradition. It's a different tradition than the modern one. And it's unfortunate when people feel like they have to make everything modern now. Yeah. I
can see update, but you're already fighting spiders and dragons and war fight. I fully expect the War of 5 Armies to last.
Yeah. Talk about unnecessary foreshadowing or, connections. That whole connection thing with whatever that orc or the goblin or whatever it is that has the hook hand that is going after Thorin. It's ridiculous.
It does. We don't. I guess they'll add some sort of emotional end at the. They're always trying on action movie. Not this action movie, and I'm going to something else. But action movies, they always want to make some emotional thing at the end, and sometimes they pull out the weirdest thing to make it like. Oh, I really feel bad at this point, or I'm really connected to this person I just met 5 hours ago. And,
Yeah.
So, okay. We're rambling. So.
Yeah, we are rambling a bit.
So, contact info?
All right. You can always visit us on our website, derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com. Leave us a comment.
You can email us at derailedtrains@gmail.com, which I have not checked lately.
No, we keep saying we really do have an email address.
We really do. I looked at it a while ago, but
yeah, I think I might have checked it since the last one. I think about it. And then there's also the iTunes. We are on iTunes, so subscribe to us.
We would love you to subscribe.
This episode will hopefully come out later this week.
Share us with all your friends and relatives
and
dogs,
enemies.
Yeah. If you don't like it, I guess.
Share it with them anyway. Maybe it'll do them some good.
You love your enemies.
Exactly.
Keep burning coals in their head.
Okay. So for my soundtrack today, I'm hoping I didn't pick this one because this is an old OC remix. Dates back to 2001, so it's like 12 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember like early on when it came out, I think.
Yeah. I picked this one because it sort of starts off with a skit. This guy's like going through radio station and he's listening to. It turns out each radio station has some Mega Man, which is what this song is from. This song is called Needles, if I didn't mention that before, and it's from Mega Man 3.
It's a ridiculously fun song.
It is a very fun song, and he's like tuning it, hearing some conventional things. And see, I went with say conventional because I thought that was more the direction we were going to go with, and we wound up doing more. I thought we were going to talk more about cliches.
Okay, yeah.
And we wound up talking about something else. But anyway, so it doesn't really fit, but it's a fun song anyway. So I hope you'll enjoy it.
Our theme today is things that don't fit.
Well, music-wise, anyway.
Yeah.
You picked a tricky topic.
Yes, I did.
So, do you have any idea what we're gonna do next time?
I have an idea, actually.
Oh, you have an idea? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I kind of have that idea too, but
Okay, we'll take yours next since I just did.
We'll talk about
Okay.
it. We'll see. We'll figure out which one works best for end of the year type
Okay.
stuff.
Oh, mine doesn't work end of the year.
It'll be a
Yeah.
December sort of.
Oh,
thing.
that's true.
So, all right. Anywho, this has been Derailed Trains of Thought. Nick, what's the most improbable way that we will leave here?
Via spaghetti strainer.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. So this has been Tim.
This has been Nick.
And we will see you next time.
Adios.
Hey man, it ain't no party without any music. Turn on the radio, huh?
Are you sure you want me to turn it on? All I get is AM radio.
Oh, definitely. Come on!
Okay. Whatever. Okay, guys. Just tell me when to stop.
Put it on music of my throne!
You want the Spanish station? Oh, come on. That's lame.
Ok, M aquí Latino Radio y así estamos otra vez y ese fue Potterman Blues de Mustard y solamente porque me gusta tanto vámonos a tocar un otro corte y ese es una colaboración pues abran las orejas para Nightcat del Norte, Nate Cloud y Mustard, Needles.